Hello kids, welcome to our channel The Story Time. Today I have a very interesting fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel. I hope you will enjoy this story. Near the edge of a thick forest, there lived a poor woodcutter with his wife, a son and a daughter. The boy's name was Hansel and the girl's name was Gretel. Their mother had died and the woodcutter's new wife did not care for these two children. So times were very hard for Hansel and Gretel. Unluckily, rains failed in their usual season one year and there was famine. In a few days, the eatables ran out and the woodcutter's family had nothing to eat. So he and his wife felt worried. One night, the wife said to the woodcutter, "We cannot feed the children, so we must get rid of them. We should take them to the forest and leave them there." "No, never," replied he. But the cruel wife insisted on what she had said and the husband had to agree. The children heard their parents talk and got very frightened. "Oh," sobbed Gretel, "we shall be lost in the dense forest and wild beasts will eat us up." "Do not worry, Gretel, I have an idea," said Hansel. And when their parents had fallen asleep, Hansel slipped out of the house and filled his pockets with tiny white pebbles. The next morning, the unkind mother came and waked the children very early and said, "Get up and be dressed quickly. You shall go with us to the forest today to cut wood." Then she gave either of them a thick slice of bread for their midday meal, and they all set out together. After every few steps, Hansel kept dropping a white pebbles along the path. The parents did not notice what he was doing. When they had reached the heart of the forest, the stepmother said to the children, "Sit here and take some rest. We are going further into the forest to cut some wood. When we have done, we will come back and take you home." After eating their slices of bread, Hansel and Gretel soon fell asleep. When they woke up, it was quite dark. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel comforted her, saying, "Let the moon rise, we will soon find the way back home." When the full moon had come up, the children set out hand in hand, following the white pebbles, and reached home. The woodcutter's wife was surprised to see the children back home. "You bad children," she cried while opening the door to let them in. Eager to know how they had come back, she was able to see the white pebbles lying along the path. When the children had gone to bed the next night, the cruel mother locked their room so that they might not go out to collect pebbles again. Terribly frightened, the children lay in their beds. Hansel comforted his sister, saying, "Don't worry, I will do something again." The next morning, the mother waked the children up again. She gave them 2 small slices of bread and led them into the forest. Clever Hansel crumbled his slice of bread into small pieces. Then he dropped them along the way as he had done with the pebbles so that he could find the way back home. But he never thought the birds would eat them up before long. Reaching the thick of the forest, the cruel mother made them sit at a place. Then she and her husband walked further, pretending to go for chopping wood. But following another path, they returned home. When it was nightfall, Gretel felt afraid, but Hansel had no fear at all. He said, "I can easily find way home, for I had marked the path with crumbs of my slice of bread." But alas, the birds had eaten up each and every crumb, so even when the moon was up, they could not find their way back home. Gretel sobbed and said, "We are soon going to die. The prowling wild beast shall eat us up." "I will take care of you, my sister," said Hansel. Tired and hungry, they lay down under a tree and fell fast asleep. Hearing the sweet chirp of birds, both the children woke up at dawn the next morning. Holding each other's hands, they went deeper and deeper into the forest. They could smell something very sweet in the air. As they moved a little further, they came to a strange hut. Its roof was made of cake, candies, and cookies, while its small door was made of chocolate. "This is a gingerbread hut," cried Gretel out of delight. And both the children started gobbling the hut to appease their hunger. Both of them enjoyed the delicious cake, candies, and the chocolate a lot. This hut actually belonged to an old witch who loved to eat little children. She was hiding inside the hut. When she saw the children eating her yummy hut, she at first mocked at them, saying, "Nibble my hut like rats, as if it were your own." Then she yelled, "Who is nibbling at my house?" Both the children got frightened to hear the voice coming from inside the hut. To their utter surprise, they saw the old witch looking at them with eyes red in anger. The old witch grabbed the children and, giving out a wicked laugh, screamed, "You have harmed my house. I shall fatten you and then eat you up." Hansel and Gretel got very frightened indeed. Seeing the children frightened, the witch locked Hansel in a cage. Looking at her brother locked, poor Gretel began to weep aloud. The witch felt delighted at it and said, "Don't worry, both of you shall help me do household chores." Next morning, while Gretel was busy cleaning the floor, the witch turned to Gretel and said, "You lazy little girl, light the fire and help me make the breakfast. I have shut your brother up in the cage, and I am going to fatten him until he is plump enough to be cooked for my supper." Poor Gretel did all the chores and also cooked meal. When she carried the meal for Hansel, they consoled each other, saying, "Have faith in God. What is to be must be." The wicked witch had red eyes which couldn't see very far. Every day she would go to the iron cage and say to Hansel, "Put your finger out so that I may see how fat you have grown." Hansel had known that the witch could not see very far, so he poked out a straw instead of his finger. The witch was sorry to find that he had not become plump enough. The witch now decided to eat Gretel first and said to her, "Light the fire, heat the oven. I am going to cook you for dinner." When Gretel had heated the oven, the old witch called out to her and said, "I have kneaded the dough and loaves are ready for baking. Crawl into the oven and see if it is hot enough to bake bread." Gretel could sense her trick and said, "The oven door is too tightly shut and I cannot open it. Do it for me, please." "What nonsense!" shouted the witch. "Put your head inside at first, like this." Saying so, she bent to open the oven door. Gretel gave her a hard push from behind and slammed the oven door shut. The wicked witch was roasted alive. Then Gretel freed her brother out of the cage. Both of them had no fear now, so they went inside the cottage and opened all the treasure chests of the witch. They filled their pockets with pearls, diamonds, and rubies. Before any other danger might overtake them, the children set out once more to find their way home. Hand in hand, they were very glad to leave the witch's hut. Soon they came to a big lake that lay across the way. They were just thinking how to cross it when a white swan swam up to them and said, "Do you want to go across the lake?" "Yes," said the children. "Kindly help us." "Okay, I'll carry you across the lake on my back," said the swan. Before long, it carried the children one by one to the other bank of the lake. Now, both the children had reached the part of the wood which they knew quite well. So, jumping in joy, Hansel and Gretel ran along fast and soon came in sight of their own little hut, where they saw their father standing at the door. The woodcutter was overjoyed when his children rushed into his arms. He had been looking for them in the forest for several days. He was all alone, for his wife had died. He kissed and hugged them lovingly. They told him about the wicked witch and showed him the jewels. From then on, they lived in peace and happiness ever after.